Hello everybody and welcome to the 7th and final episode in this webinar series, What is Experiential Retail? Today's focus is on the escape experience.
Hi everyone, really excited to have you joining us today. I'm Ian Johnson, I'm the founder of QUININE. We are a retail experience consultancy. We work with product and service brands all over the world, helping them transform their existing formats or creating new formats for them.
And I'm Alex Whitlow, a Senior Design Director here at QUININE. So why are we here? The term experiential retail, it continues to be used as the solution to today's challenging retail climate. But the problem with this term is that many people don't actually know what they mean by experiential retail. It is a term that is yet to be clearly defined.
And now there's plenty of terms in our industry that have not been defined. And that's the problem we see. We all need a common language so we can actually have clear conversations and understand what we're all talking about.
And so this series, we're focused on the retail experience framework that we use here at QUININE. It's a tool that we've created to help us discuss and define retail experiences.
Yeah, and in this series, in the last 6 episodes, we've set out the retail experience framework. We've discussed the importance of getting the place and the customer journey correct. And now we're talking about the 5 different experience realms.
And all these past webinars are available online for download. And today's episode, will also be available on our website, probably within the next day or two.
Yeah, and as Al mentioned at the beginning, this is the final episode of this series. There's 7 episodes in total. Both Al and I have been aiming to hit the 30-minute mark for these episodes. We slightly go over, and so we're going to push on today. Normally, we have a set of Q&A at the end. Today, we're not going to do that. We're going to have a nice summary when we get to the end of the webinar.
But if you do have questions, please don't let that stop you from sending them in. Any questions that we get in from you guys, we will answer again within the next day or two. So let's quickly outline our framework. Ian.
Okay, here we go. So at the core of this framework is this trinity of time, place, and people. And we look at people from 2 different perspectives. And the first perspective is from the customer's point of view. These are the customer missions. These are the reasons people actually go into store.
And secondly, we look at it from the retailer's point of view. These are the experience realms that the retailers create in store.
Yeah, and the best experiences, the experiences that give the most meaning for customers, are those when retailers combine the different experience realms, when they facilitate multiple customer missions.
And the more realms that a retailer includes, the more customer missions that are facilitated, the better chance that retailer has of creating an engaging and meaningful experience.
Okay, so today let's turn our focus to the escape experience. Now, the escape experience is perhaps the most difficult to actually pin down. What does it actually mean? Now, for us, we define escape as losing oneself within the retail environment.
Yeah, it sounds a bit woolly in the context of commercial retail spaces, but it is central to the entire notion of experiential retail. And that's what this webinar is about.
Yeah, so stay with us, stay tuned, and we'll explain more as we go along.
But before we dive deep into escape experiences within retail, let's understand the idea of escape in broader terms. I mean, what are we escaping from?
So escape as we see it is about seeking a break from everyday life. Most of us aren't actually thinking about breaking out of jail.
No, but this change is important and adds a huge amount of value to our lives.
Yeah, exactly right, Al. So escape is personal to the individual. Similar to the sort of entertainment realm, it's based upon one's personal preference. Unlike educate, social, or functional experiences, where we can all agree upon some of the common principles.
And what we all share is a natural inclination for variety, for change. We all at times need that change, a moment, an intervention, just to break away from our day-to-day lives.
Now, it's important to note that escape is not a new idea. Now, throughout the ages, whether it's religious or cultural institutions from all over the world have used awe-inspiring architecture to provide refuge to people and communities, enabling them to reflect and find some perspective in their everyday lives.
And this approach continues to have relevance today, but opportunity to escape has broadened in its reach. The annual family holiday, a fully immersive escape, that might only happen once a year if you're lucky, but also escape can be woven into our daily patterns as well.
Yeah, and this might be just a simple notion of having a drink, whether that's by yourself or with friends.
Or taking time away from my desk during my lunch break.
So escape happens in the hobbies that we have, and this could be tied into the isolation and focus of gaming.
Or in the shared drive of a team sport.
Yeah, the escape activities we do really, really matter. They are important. They give us a new perspective and they allow us to reflect and see the wood through the trees.
Yeah, they offer us an opportunity to refresh, replenish, renew, or rejuvenate. We need to escape the reality of our day-to-day in order to appreciate it.
Yeah, so escape gives us this opportunity to step away from the stresses of everyday life. And as the daily pressures are becoming more apparent, as the world becomes more connected, as there are more global and political and economic uncertainty, our daily lives become more stressful.
Yeah, and here in the UK, there are studies that suggest stress-related illnesses now account for almost 3/4 of all healthcare visits. So with this context, integrating escape activities into our daily lives, providing opportunities to alleviate that stress and reduce anxiety is more important than ever.
Yeah, escape experiences are fundamental to our well-being. They provide us new realities. They serve as moments we can use to compare the experiences that make up our life as we know it. Fundamentally, we escape our reality in order to better understand it.
But let's be real, increasingly in many parts of the world, our daily lives are they're pretty awesome. We have so much. Our daily lives are filled with some incredible interactions. So, escaping from that day-to-day, because it's so oversaturated and rich, it is becoming more and more difficult.
Yeah, and as a result, the types of escape that we are seeking are changing. Our daily lives expand to include more. What we do to escape is being pushed to the extremes.
We see patterns developing where escape experiences, they're either moving towards a stripped back or basic approach,
or the upscaling of what was already considered an escape activity. No longer is it enough to go skiing. Now it's all about heli skiing or rolling in at a ski park.
Yeah. Now you have Bikram and even goat yoga to bring what I'm guessing is increased levels of Zen to that more traditional approach.
Yeah, even new sports activities are being created to fuel the escapist mindset. One I'd like to try here, hardcourt psycho polo.
Nice. Either way, the escape we now demand is more extreme and more accessible. Escape is now about the extremely simple or the extremely extraordinary. So let's consider the escape mindset.
Yeah, and understanding this mindset is complex. When exploring mindsets, we're simply outlining what we would feel someone would actually be considering. Now, it helps us understand the context in which escape experiences come about. But given how personal and subjective the notion of escape is, we just use these as a reference point to start a deeper discussion. There's no one rule fits all.
And we start with time, and we always consider time. When do I want to escape and for how long? Maybe it's interwoven into my daily routine, or do I step away from my day-to-day life?
Yeah. Now we're also going to consider who. Who do I want to escape with? Do I escape in the company of someone else, or do I actually need some me time?
And we will certainly consider any associated costs. And as mentioned earlier, as some commercialized escape activities become more extreme, some are actually becoming more accessible. Made for the masses, some of these experiences are actually becoming cheaper than you might expect.
Yeah. Now, when we try to understand how, we need to actually dive a little deeper. And here we're going to reference one of our spectrums. We call it the spectrum of approach.
And using this, we see two competing forces at play, with an internal focus at one end and an external influence at the other.
Yeah, having an internal focus at one end of the spectrum is slightly deceiving. Now, it's unlikely that we ever achieve a complete internal focus.
Yeah, exactly. Even the most committed practitioners of meditation will be influenced on some level by the environment that they find themselves within. Nonetheless, internal focus represents the notion that I want to escape without any external distraction.
Yeah, whilst at one end of the spectrum, we have external influence. Now, here we're open to external stimulation and distraction. It's here where I want to experience the extraordinary. So think about the extreme, the hyper-real snow parks or the goat yoga that we mentioned earlier.
So when we look at Disney, we see a great example of this. This is an onslaught of external influences. Sure, I still need to focus, but this is made so much easier by the animated set-like stage, the props, and the people who populate it.
Yeah, combine these external influences, capture my internal focus. They actually carry me through a narrative so that I completely forget my day-to-day life.
But the reality of most escape experiences is that they're neither as rich and saturated as Disney, nor as solitary as a pure internal focus. They combine and switch between the two.
Yeah, so for instance, in climbing, now the success here comes from a combination of a complete internal focus with a deep understanding and connection to the environment that you're actually in.
Whereas somebody who plays golf as a means of escape combines focus with the environment, but also with the props needed in order to fulfill the activity of golf, the clubs and the ball.
Yeah, well, someone who goes to the cinema to escape, the experience is actually a little bit more towards the Disney end of the scale. It's just far less active. Now, there is the narrative to focus on, but there's also the external influences, the lighting, the curtains, the sound, even the pitch of the seats.
And there are props in the ice cream and the popcorn. And there are people, the people that you're sharing the experience with. All these type of escape experiences, they live in between the internal focus and the external influence.
Now, okay, so following the how, we're also going to consider what. What type of escape experience do I want? Now, we're going to refer to another one of our spectrums, the spectrum of type. Now, here we have familiar at one end and new types of experiences at the other end of the spectrum.
So let's consider familiar experiences first. This might be as simple as popping out for a cigarette break to get away from a day of intense meetings.
Or it might be about just returning back to the family home where you feel safe and comfortable.
Or it may be as simple as the act of hanging out with my buddies.
Yeah. So at one end of the spectrum, we have familiar, and at the other end of the spectrum, we have new. This is where I want to escape through something new and fresh and inspiring. It's a new type of experience.
And this might be going to a new place, a place that completely separates me from my day-to-day life.
Or it might just be about the excitement in meeting new people that makes me forget about the tough day I've had.
I might become completely transfixed by a lecture that I'm in. I'm learning something new.
Or you might look to try a new activity. Or I might just go to a new performance that I've never seen before, or go to a new event.
And we will finally consider the where. Where do I want to experience escape? And as with many of the realms that we've looked at in this series, the expectation and the necessity today is that I can find some type of escape anywhere that I want.
Yeah, and that anywhere actually includes within the retail landscape.
So let's talk about escape within retail. How do escape experiences exist on our high streets, in our malls, and in all of our retail environments?
So there is this emergence of wellness environments on the high street. Now, this has reinforced the appetite for escape activities within our lives.
Yeah, we see a variety of gyms and health spas on the high street now.
We even see brands such as Inscape and Mindful appearing within the retail landscape, providing everyone with meditation and mindfulness services.
But this is not what we want to focus on today. Whilst these are extremely valid and they're really interesting types of new retail, but these are, by their very nature, commercialized or productized escape experiences.
Yeah, and today we want to talk about escaping within the traditional retail landscape. How can retailers enable their customers to forget their shopping? Now, we see a huge opportunity for customers to escape into retail, not escape from retail.
And if we use our escape approach spectrum with the internal focus at one end and an external influence at the other, if we use this to help us understand better the escape experiences within retail, we can start to see that those escape missions that sit at the internal focus end, they are difficult to deliver.
Well, unless they're part of this emerging retail mindfulness environments and experiences.
Sure, but situations where meditation is executed anywhere in retail without a controlled or specific environment, they just seem forced and a little awkward rather than part of a considered escape customer mission.
Now, of course, they can happen, like here in the Lululemon shop, but we have to ask if this is a really good use of your retail footprint. So when we start to bring in some of these external influences, such as the environment, this is when we start to see a real benefit to the retail customer.
And this can be the simple quiet room that we see popping up within department stores, a space to get away from the hustle and bustle of the store. No noise, no technology. This is set up to refresh and regroup.
Yeah, this provides a place for customers to escape the mundane, the functional aspects of retail. This space is about pulling back and allowing customers time and place to focus on themselves.
But amazing spaces, architecture and environments can provide inspiration and emotional impact that captures your focus and helps you remove yourself from the complexities of the outside world.
Yeah, and as we move further to the right side of the spectrum, we start to see the impact of these more external influences within our retail stores. So complementing an environment with props can start to theme an experience. It's this an image of a home office space, or is this a global brands retail store?
And it's the latter. This is the Adidas store here in London in Shoreditch. And they've used this domestic motif and filled the environment with props that help to create a new and unexpected experience that helps people forget that they are shopping for sportswear.
But if we go one step further and we utilize your brand's products and services as props, this starts to build relevance. It closes the gaps in the story and encourages a complete escape.
And Casper takes full advantage of this. In the Dreamery in New York, there are sleep pods that you can hire out to get a little respite from the craziness of your day. But these pods, they use Casper mattresses, pillows, sheets, and eye masks.
Yeah, and with this kind of integration, I actually feel like I'm escaping into the brand. So if we were to consider what retail looks like at the external influence end of the spectrum, this is where we can start to overlay the environment and the props with people.
And when rich and inspirational environments combine with relevant props that are part of your brand's own products and services, along with engaging staff that involve customers into the themed narrative, retailers can create new, extraordinary, and hyper-real escape experiences that really resonate with customers and offer meaningful escape missions.
Yeah, and the added benefit here, Al, perhaps even more powerful, is that these extreme retail experiences can easily captivate shoppers on other missions. Whether it's the functional, the social, the educate, or the entertainment missions, here is where we can transition them into escape experiences.
And this is where the magic can happen. Once a customer forgets that they are shopping, retailers can easily form deeper customer relationships. They can build trust and guarantee brand loyalty.
So how can individual retailers achieve an escape experience? Now, before we answer this, let's cast our minds back to episode 2.
Yeah, here we talked about the need to have a store format that worked, a format that provided a frictionless experience for customers, and one that provided a stable foundation upon which other experiences could be built.
Yeah, and this is fundamental to escape experiences in retail. I cannot be fully engaged or immersed if the store doesn't work. In the same way, I can't enjoy a lap around the Grand Prix circuit if my car has flat tires.
Understood. So, with my reliable foundation in place, I have a store that works, but what does escape look like in retail?
Yeah, so in previous episodes, when we've considered how to integrate certain type of missions into the retail landscape, whether that's the social, the educate, or the entertain, we've explored both how incidental interventions or immersive interventions can have an impact.
Well, delivering escape is slightly different.
Yeah, escape experiences by their very nature can only be immersive. They cannot be incidental. In order to escape, to become removed from my everyday life, in retail especially, I must be fully engaged. I must be involved. I must be immersed in the experience.
But what does an immersive escape look like in retail? Well, to those of you who have followed this series from the start, you might already see where we are taking you.
Now, the immersive escape experience, that is when a retailer delivers such an exceptionally engaging and immersive interventions in store that the customer forgets they are actually shopping.
And throughout this series, we have identified that the best retail experiences are those that involve all the experience realms. So if a retailer can deliver these exceptional, engaging, and immersive experiences through the functional realm, the social realm, the educate realm, and the entertainment realm, that retailer will create the optimum environment to deliver an escape experience.
Yeah, Alan, if we come back to the purpose of this webinar series, the reason that we're actually here is to help quantify and qualify some of the terms used around experiential retail. Now, we use those because they define where we want to go. They define the future of retail. Now, we're using those words without really knowing what they mean.
But we believe that when you transition customers from a specific functional mission into an escape experience through the social, the educational, or the entertainment realms, or a combination of all of these, this is when you have experiential retail.
Perfect. So with this thought in mind, let's understand how the functional, the educational, the entertainment, and the social realms can become an escapist realm.
Throughout the series, we have found ourselves referencing a select few well-known global retailers many times. But this is for good reason. They are doing great things.
Yeah, but Al, let's be truthful here. Not many retailers are fulfilling all of the criteria all of the time.
No. So today, for this webinar, we will walk you through each of the experience realms using multiple touch points using some of these retailers.
So let's start by looking at the functional realm. Now, this is when I'm on a task-based mission. I actually need something. And to help us understand this, we're going to look at Fresh Hippo.
Yep, previously named Hema, this Chinese grocery retailer is all about convenience. It's a relatively new bricks and mortar retailer owned and supported by Alibaba. The format is described as part experience center, part consumption center, and part logistics center.
Yeah, and this strategy is to build trust in the brand through the physical experiences before transitioning customers to their online platform.
So it's a convenience retailer. So let's imagine I urgently need chili powder. I walk into store, I see the display racks, I find what I need. And using the Fresh Hippo app, I scan it and proceed to the facial recognition checkout.
Yeah, and while there's obvious innovative efficiency here, this isn't much different to a traditional experience. But Fresh Hippo also facilitates shopping through their app whilst at home. This way I can click and collect.
Or even better, I can get home delivery within 30 minutes if I live within 3 kilometers. Employees can often be seen scurrying around the store collecting product for online customers. They pass the shopping bags back to the back of house delivery area via the overhead track system.
Yeah, it's all pretty amazing stuff. But where Fresh Hippo concepts truly starts to facilitate my own personal functional needs is in their use of data collected through the app. Where the online store can hold thousands and thousands of products, the physical store can only accommodate a few thousand.
But using the data from the app, Fresh Hippo curates the in-store product range specific for the local market. So they're responding to the local market's buying habits. The shop is personalized to me or my community. But how is this an escape experience?
Well, Al, this is not the escape experience we wanted to focus on. When we examined functional missions earlier in the series, we introduced our spectrum of functional missions. Now, that stated we had specific needs at one end of a spectrum and general needs at the other end.
And the Fresh Hippo strategy, that leans heavily towards a customer's specific needs. I need chili powder urgently.
Yeah, but despite this strategy, Fresh Hippo still sees huge value in creating the more general experiences for the shopper.
So to recap, this is when Discover comes into play. I'm not sure exactly what I want, but therefore I'm open-minded to new things.
Yeah, so an example of this is in the Fresh Hippo app. Now, once I scan my items in, it starts to tell me about the product. It tells me about the product origin, what farm it comes from, how fresh it is. I'm starting to learn about products I don't recognize. I get information on the nutritional value. I even can get instructions on how to cook them.
So through the app, Fresh Hippo are upscaling that functional mission into an educational experience. Also, 20% of the products in store are fresh and unpackaged, which allows me to discover and select on an individual basis. The live seafood tanks, they are the perfect answer to the Chinese demand for freshness, but they also provide a certain level of in-store performance as well.
So if I'm uncertain or a little bit nervous about how to cook this giant crab I've just pulled out of a fresh tank, I actually can find a store expert to do this for me.
And the restaurants in store, they provide me with a reason to dwell longer, share my experience with others, and build a deeper connection with the brand, all whilst benefiting from that frictionless efficiency of the robot waiters.
Yeah, so Fresh Hippo as a retailer has put convenience and efficiency at the core of everything they do, but nonetheless, they see great value in the general discovery-based activities in store.
And it is these activities that will continue to bring customers back into the built retail store and build deeper relationships with the brand.
And it's at the general end of the functional mission spectrum where we discover is in full flight that escaping within the act of shopping happens.
Here is where I escape through shopping itself.
Okay, Al. Now, why don't we take a look at the social realm? How can social experience translate into an escape experience in retail?
Well, when we explored social experiences earlier in the series, we referenced cycle apparel brand Rafa, and we'll use them as a great example again today.
Okay, the cycling community has become a very tribal group, especially in recent years here in the UK. Cycling is booming. Stock levels in Lycra are insane. But within this community, Rafa has created their own little sub-tribe.
And this has been largely achieved not just through the great products that they sell, but the community events, the after sales that they provide through their retail formats, the Rafa clubhouses.
Now, we've previously mentioned that in many cases we struggle when we see retailer after retailer just dropping a coffee shop into their stores in order to increase dwell time. Now, more often than not, there's no relevance to the brand or their product offer. But in the case of Rafa, this cafe in their store works perfectly. This is exactly what the cycling community needs.
Yeah, a space to break from a long ride, catch up with my fellow cyclists, and refresh. We can sit and talk about the latest cycle tech for hours, or we can watch the televised race together, all within the four walls of the retail store.
Now, organized scheduled rides based out of their retail stores provide an opportunity to meet new people and have fun with my tribe.
But what's really interesting is that these social touchpoints and events are in most cases the brand's main focus. Rafa, they then introduce their core products within this social framework, whether it be in their mobile clubhouse that follows their organized rides,
or even with their pop-ups that they've created during the Tour de France. Now, as you can see, Rafa is using the social missions to enable all parts of their customer journey, from attract to discover and after sales.
They do also integrate the other realms of educate and entertain, but they've used the social realm as the driver to create interactions with their customers. This takes them away from the traditional product-focused or functional experience.
And Al, that's it. It's that simple. If you can get your customers to forget that they're on a purchasing pathway, or if you can get them to forget that they're actually in a functioning retail environment, you've achieved the escape realm.
And as we mentioned before, this is where you create extreme brand loyalty, trust, and advocacy.
Okay, Al, let's now talk about the educational realm. And it's here where we can't avoid talking about Apple.
And as a brand, Apple have moved away from the product I use to how those products make my life better. They are now selling a transformational experience, and this approach certainly integrates all of the realms that we have been speaking about.
Yeah, they integrate the functional with the online booking and frictionless pay. They integrate the entertainment with live events in store. And of course, they integrate the social when they've redefined their new store concept as a modern day town square.
But central to this shift is their focus on the educational realm. They maintain a high quality of staff expertise, staff with the ability to draw upon a huge depth of knowledge, both on the shop floor and within the Genius bars for the scheduled customer needs.
Yeah, but Al, it's in these after sales that Apple truly excels in delivering education. Sure, there are seminars on how to use their products, but there's also a huge push towards other relatable life skills.
Yeah, there are courses ranging from photo and video to music, art, design, and even coding for kids, all taught by a new fleet of employees, the Apple Creative Pros.
Yeah, in some cases, there's even an Apple accreditation to be achieved. Now, could there be a day in the future where an Apple qualification replaces those from one of our traditional educational institutions?
So when the retail store you've just entered has immersed you into a world that you don't recognize as a place to purchase products, where the interactions are focused on all the wonderful things you can achieve,
but where you truly feel you are a better person when you leave than when you arrived, where you are more knowledgeable and empowered. Now, this is escaping through the education realm.
And finally, we look at entertain. And it may be little surprise that we're going to take a look at Nike, one of the brands that we love here in the studio.
Now, at the center of what everything Nike does within their retail landscape, it's all centered around fun and creating engaging, entertaining interactions. But that's a pretty simple viewpoint.
The beauty of the Nike experience is that they facilitate all of the realms. They allow me to make simple purchases through a brilliant functional experience. They educate me throughout the journey with their innovative technology, and if I desire, they support me afterwards with social events.
They are constantly exploring new ways to involve their customer into their brand story. Just do it. But when you do it, make sure you're having fun doing it.
Even before you enter the new Fifth Avenue store in New York, you're in awe of this extraordinary building. This is clearly something beyond ordinary retail. It is theatrical and imposing, and I know that inside there must be something pretty awesome and new.
Yeah, as I get closer to the store, the way the brand tells story in their windows is engaging and captivating. I can easily forget that I'm standing outside on the sidewalk freezing in the cold.
And inside the door, I'm greeted by one of the most energetic and bubbly people I've ever met, all to the backdrop of loud music coming from the in-store DJ, and this is transporting me away from the worries of my day-to-day life and into the belly of the Nike brand.
Yeah, throughout all of the Nike stores, I can discover new products and services in interesting and dynamic ways. I can be very creative in my selections with personalization and customization at the core of this experience.
And I'm not just told how good the products are. I can decide for myself through engaging in immersive moments that involve the human, the digital, and the physical.
Yeah, and there are many opportunities around the world to share these fun and enjoyable experiences with the Nike community.
The entertainment activities in the Nike store are not traditional entertainment, but rather these are dynamic interactions, both big and small, that always align to their brand.
Now, the Nike store here in London is not exactly a fairground. It's far, far too considered and sophisticated for that. But when I leave the store, bags of products in both hands, I cannot help but feel that I've just left the fairground and I have won plenty of things to take home.
Yeah, for me, if that's not an escape experience, I'm not sure what is. Okay, so that's us coming to the end of our 7th webinar. Maybe we need to just take a moment to recap our key message.
So, at the beginning of this webinar series, we outlined our framework to include people, place, and time. Now, by breaking our retail experiences into smaller component parts, you can actually start to understand what these elements are and therefore start to define what makes up experiential retail for your brand.
Throughout the series, we have discussed that the best experiences, the ones that have the greatest meaning, are those that draw upon multiple experience realms. The more realms you can include, the more opportunity to facilitate more customer missions.
So now that we've walked you through all aspects of the customer experience realms, it's clear to see that escape experiences are not designed. They're actually the accumulation of creating immersive and engaging social, educational, and entertainment experiences that are built upon a robust and frictionless foundation that works.
It's only by achieving escape experiences that retailers offer their customers an opportunity to refresh, reflect, and re-engage with their everyday lives. When people forget that they are shopping, they can truly engage with the brand in a meaningful way.
Yeah, this is why providing escape experiences in retail is so important. We want people to escape to the shops in the same way they escape into their passions, their hobbies, and their holidays.
Today, with all the digital disruptions changing the retail landscape, retailers are focused on making sure their stores facilitate the functional realm. There is a lot to do here as we move towards omni-channel retailing and a more unified customer journey.
Yeah, those retailers that are leading the way are introducing additional realms into their store formats, but very few are achieving any level of escape in their stores.
Fast forward 5 years down the road, retailers will have cracked the functional realm. Seamless, frictionless retailing will be everywhere. But in order to meet customers' expectations and differentiate themselves on the high street, retailers will all need to focus on creating and maintaining many more experiences that result in escape.
Now, as mentioned previously, no one retailer is doing everything. The brands that we reference throughout are exceptionally well resourced. They're all doing a lot of great things. but they still have gaps.
And it is in these gaps that we see so much opportunity to deliver amazing things in the coming years. This is such an exciting time for retailers, and especially physical retail.
Okay, now we're well over the 30 minutes we set out for ourselves. No apologies for that. We won't have time for a Q&A, but we'd like to encourage you to get in touch if you have any questions, or if you'd like to understand more about creating retail experiences that are right for you.
So we're already working on several webinars and podcasts that will continue this experiential retail conversation. So we will be back soon. But for now, thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Everyone, thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.